Imagine coming home after a long day, expecting nothing but the sweet silence of your own backyard, only to find a shiny new fence carving up your property like it's some HOA's personal playground. That's exactly what hit Jack Harlan, a retired mechanic who'd spent decades turning his modest slice of suburban North Carolina into a haven, when the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood decided his land was hers for the taking. But oh, the irony. This wasn't just any land grab. It was a masterclass in bureaucratic absurdity, where community standards became code for, give me what I want or else. And Jack, the quiet guy everyone whispered about as that grumpy old-timer, was about to flip the script in the most satisfying way possible. Jack Harlan had always been the type to mind his own business. In the sleepy cul-de-sac of Willow Bend, where cookie-cutter houses lined up like obedient soldiers, his place stood out not because it was flashy, but because it wasn't. A rambling ranch-style home with a wildflower garden that refused to conform to the HOA's approved plant list, a rusty swing set from the 80s where his granddaughter Mia played, and his loyal mutt, Scout, who barked at squirrels like they were invading aliens. Jack had bought the house back in '85, right after his divorce, pouring his sweat into fixing it up while raising his daughter alone. Now, the 68, with Mia living with him after her parents' messy split. It was his sanctuary. But whispers followed him like shadows, rumors started by nosy neighbors about how he was antisocial, probably hiding something, all because he skipped the mandatory block parties and let his grass grow a half-inch too long. He heard the gossip at the local diner, where folks clucked their tongues. That Harlan guy's trouble, always glaring. Jack just sipped his coffee, observing, biding his time. He knew the real trouble was brewing in the HOA office, where Karen Whitaker ruled with an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove of neighborhood harmony. Karen was the epitome of suburban overlord, president of the Willow Bend HOA for a decade, with her perfectly coiffed bob, pearl earrings, and a smile that said, "Bless your heart," while plotting your downfall. She preached about upholding property values at every meeting, but everyone knew it was about control. Her husband, Ted, was her yes man, a retired accountant who nodded along like a bobblehead. Karen's pet peeves? Unapproved mailboxes, visible trash cans, and heaven forbid, a bird feeder that attracted nuisance wildlife. But lately, her ambitions had grown. Whispers in the community newsletter hinted at expansion for the greater good, code for annexing adjacent lots to build a fancy clubhouse, funded by jacked-up dues. Jack's property, with its extra acre backing onto a wooded lot, was the missing puzzle piece. He'd ignored the initial friendly notices about voluntary integration, but Karen wasn't one to take no for an answer. "It's for the children," she'd coo at meetings, while eyeing Jack's land like a hawk spotting a mouse. That fateful Tuesday, Jack pulled his battered Chevy into the driveway, the engine coughing like an old smoker. Mia was inside, probably glued to her tablet, and Scout's tail thumped against the screen door. All Jack wanted was to kick off his boots, crack a beer, and watch the sunset paint his unruly garden gold. But as he rounded the corner to the backyard, his boot caught on something unnatural. There it was, a chain-link fence, fresh and gleaming, slicing right through his vegetable patch, toppling tomato stakes and crushing his prized zucchinis. A sign dangled from it, bold red letters screaming, "Willow Bend HOA property. No trespassing, violators prosecuted." Jack stood there, blinking, as if the fence might vanish like a bad dream. His pulse didn't spike. No. Jack's anger was a slow burn, like a fuse on a stick of dynamite. He ran a calloused hand over the metal, feeling the cold bite, and muttered, "Well, ain't this a fine how do you do?" This wasn't just a fence. It was an invasion, a ridiculous declaration that his home, paid off with years of overtime, was now fair game for Karen's empire building. He didn't yell or stomp. Instead, he fetched his toolbox from the garage, selected a pair of bolt cutters, and snipped the sign free with a satisfying snap. The metal clattered to the ground, and Jack picked it up, folding it under his arm like yesterday's newspaper. "Time for a chat," he said to Scout, who tilted his head curiously. Jack drove straight to the HOA office, a squat building disguised as a community center with fake shutters and a sign boasting "Harmony starts here." Inside, it reeked of air freshener and entitlement. He plunked the sign on the front desk, making the part-time secretary, a mousy woman named Cheryl, spill her coffee. "I'd like to speak to the genius behind this masterpiece," Jack drawled, his voice even ice-steady. Karen emerged from her office, Ted trailing like a shadow. Her smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Mr. Harlan, what a surprise. Is there an issue with your dues?" Jack held up the sign. "This your idea of neighborly? Planting a fence in my backyard like you're staking a claim in the Wild West." Karen's eyes flickered, but she kept that saccharine tone. "Oh, dear, you must be mistaken. Per the 2022 bylaw amendments, which were voted on democratically, mind you, your lot has been harmonized into our boundaries for improved community access. It's all about cohesion, Mr. Harlan." "Safety first," Ted chimed in, adjusting his glasses. Yes. The vote was unanimous among active members. Jack snorted. "Active members? You mean the folks who show up to your rubber stamp meetings? I've got a deed older than your fake tan. Karen, this ain't your playground." Her smile tightened, a crack in the facade. "Now, Mr. Harlan, let's not be uncivil. Annexation doesn't need your say-so. It's for the greater good. Think of the property values." Jack leaned in, voice low. "Your greater good is trespassing on my tomatoes. Have a nice day." He turned and left, the sign tucked under his arm, but he felt the shift, the air thickening like before a storm. Karen's polite mask hid a viper, and Jack knew she'd strike back, all in the name of order. The retaliation started subtle, like a drip that turns into a flood. Next morning, Jack was on his porch, coffee in hand, watching Mia toss a ball for Scout, when a pristine white SUV with the HOA logo screeched to a halt at his curb. Out stepped a officious man in khakis and a polo HOA enforcement officer, clipboard at the ready, flanked by a reluctant deputy sheriff who looked like he'd rather be fishing. "Sir," the polo guy barked, striding onto Jack's lawn like he owned it. "You're in violation. That fence removal constitutes vandalism of community property." Jack didn't budge from his chair. "Community property? Last I checked, my backyard ain't a public park." The deputy, a young guy named Ramirez, shifted awkwardly. "We got a complaint, sir. Just need to verify residency." Mia froze mid-throw, eyes wide. Scout growled low. Jack set his mug down slowly. "Verify? I've lived here since Reagan was prez. This land's mine, deputy, not some HOA fairy tale." The polo guy puffed up. "The bylaws clearly state." Jack cut him off with a wave. "Bylaws? Those the ones Karen writes in crayon? We're done here." Mia, Scout, inside. As they retreated, Jack caught the deputy's sympathetic glance. a small win in the absurdity. But Karen wasn't done. That afternoon at the grocery store, Jack felt the chill. Old Mrs. Ellis, who'd borrowed his lawnmower last summer, averted her eyes in the produce aisle. The cashier, usually chatty, rang him up in silence. Whispers followed. Heard he's fighting the HOA, probably gonna drag down our home values. Karen had activated her rumor mill, painting Jack as the neighborhood pariah. 2 days later, a crisp envelope appeared in his mailbox, no stamp, just menace. Inside, stubbornness leads to accidents. Kids play rough. Pets eat weird things. Sell now, or regret later. Jack folded it neatly, tucking it away. Cute, he murmured, but inside, the fuse burned shorter. They weren't just after land. They were threatening his family. That night, as he fixed dinner, the power flickered, then died. Not a storm. The breaker box outside had been tampered with, wires snipped clean. "We control the basics," it screamed. Jack rigged a generator, but the message was clear. Karen's harmony was war by another name. Hope flickered in an unexpected email. Anonymous, encrypted, from Whistle. "They're scamming everyone. Meet at Joe's Diner. Noon." Alone, Jack went, nursing a stale coffee in a corner booth. And slid a nervous kid in his 20s, Ethan, HOA's IT guy, sweat beading despite the AC. "Mr. Harlan, I can't stay long." Karen's got eyes everywhere. Jack nodded. "Spill it." Ethan slid over a flash drive. "It's not just your land. She's partners with a developer, wants to turn Willow Bend into Whitaker Woods, luxury condos. Your acre's the entry point. She had me hack the maps, fake the annexation. Said you'd fold like a cheap suit. Just a bitter old loner." Jack pocketed the drive, a grin tugging at his lips despite the rage. "Bitter? Huh? Thanks, kid. Watch your back." Ethan's eyes darted. "They ruined my aunt's bakery with fines. I won't let 'em win." The attacks escalated into farce. Mia came home from school clutching an official letter. Residency disputed by HOA, enrollment at risk. Jack's blood boiled, but he hugged her tight. "Grown-up nonsense, kiddo. I'll sort it." The principal confirmed forgery. Outraged. "This is low, even for them." Then, overhearing his neighbor, sweet old Mr. Patel, on the phone, "Yeah, Karen, he's out back again. Looks sneaky. The pie he'd brought over last week, probably laced with obligation." But the gut punch came when Scout didn't greet him at the door. Jack found him in the garage, retching green foam, convulsing. No, boy." He rushed to the vet, Mia sobbing in the truck. "Poison," the doc said grimly. "Deliberate. Meat bait. Industrial stuff." Jack's hands clenched. "I know who." Scout survived. Barely. With a limp, a badge of Karen's civility. That did it. Jack called his old buddy, Lou, a sharp-tongued lawyer who'd handled his divorce. "Lou, they poisoned my dog. Time to nuke 'em." Lou arrived with bagels and fury. "These HOA tyrants think they're untouchable? Let's dissect 'em." Their kitchen became HQ. Flash drive docs showing fraud. Vet reports. Forged letter. Threat note. Sabotage affidavit. "They bet on you quitting," Lou said. "Big mistake." They sued a not a slap. A hammer, fraud, harassment, Animal cruelty. The works. Demanded audit of HOA books. The clerk's eyes widened. Holy cow! Karen countered dirty. Flyers blanketed the neighborhood. Unstable resident endangers community, with a doctored photo of Jack looking deranged at a yard sale. Protect our kids from this menace. Mia's school buzzed with it. The principal called. Furious. We're with you. Jack broke his silence on local TV. This ain't about fences. This is my home, where I taught Mia to ride a bike. You don't redraw maps to steal that. Mia's viral video her under the swing set with Scout. This is Grandpa's place. Not for some fancy club. Leave us alone. A racked up views. Turning tide. Comments flooded. HOA horror. Karen's facade cracked. Her meetings emptied. Court day. Sterile room. Tension thick. Jack in his best flannel. Karen in power suit. Smirking with her shark lawyers. Judge Harlan, no relation. Peered over specs. Proceed. HOA spun yarn. Misunderstanding. Routine update. Lou demolished. Original deeds versus. Faked maps, gasps. Witnesses. Fined widow. Outraged principal. Vet detailing poison's agony. Ethan testified. Voice shaking. Karen ordered the hacks. Bury the old coot. Her face paled. Kill shot. Recording of Karen. Make his life hell till he cracks. Silence. Jack's closing. This land's my life. Not her toy. Judge slammed gavel. Abuse of power. HOA dissolved. $300,000 damages. Criminal probes for Whitaker. Karen deflated. Mask shattered, a bully exposed. Spring bloomed. Jack and Mia rebuilt the garden, planting defiant wildflowers. Neighbors apologized with casseroles. We were scared. Scout limped happily. Peace returned. Earned. Jack sipped coffee on the porch. Sign reading Harlan Haven Est. 1985. But here's the kicker. In a world where community means control, was Jack the real villain for fighting back? Or are HOAs the monsters we create? You tell me, right or wrong.